it's Phil Ratcliffe, and thanks for joining us for another live broadcast. It's a little cold and rainy out where we are right now. Hope you guys are inside somewhere warm and cozy. Hope you're healthy. I know my family's been through it with a lot of the flus and sicknesses, and even our guest that was supposed to be on today is out sick. But I think we have an awesome subject for you. It's something that I have been fascinated with and busy working on myself almost for the entire last year. My wife would probably call it almost an obsession now. And that is building my own solar system. So solar generation, energy storage, grid tying it in, getting your home, I guess you could do it with your business as well too, tied in to where in the long term you're more sustainable, probably save, maybe even make money. Not in Ohio these days, but maybe one day we'll get there. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, you know, what is the process? What is the operational thing of this? What has been my experience? What is like the financial planning side of things in terms of, is it smart to do it? When should I do it? What road should I take in doing it? So we're going to talk about all those things as we go through. So first and foremost, you know, why solar? It's been around for a long time now, obviously, but if you really look at how well technology has been progressing on all fronts, I think one of the most powerful things that we're going to see in the next 10 years that are really already changing people's lives is how far solar and now battery storage has come. Because, I mean, a lot of people don't know it, but the first cars were actually electric. But again, our biggest problem until recently has been that we have not been able to store that electrical potential well enough for something as powerful as an automobile. And so now with battery technology coming up and kind of getting up there with electricity, we have a way to do that rivals fossil fuels. And of course, it's going to be a lot better for the earth. It's going to be a lot better. I mean, the earth will do fine without us. But again, we got to be good stewards for ourselves and for our children and the rest of humanity. And solar, I think, is really going to do that for us. And batteries are going to allow us to take that energy with us and be able to use it overnight or during the winter. So it's really exciting. And like I said, technology is just driving the price down and driving the performance up. So now, not only is it something good to do, but it's affordable. And it's even crossing, or depending on your situation, already have crossed over the point to where it might make significant financial sense for you to do this. It's interesting, this summer, as I was playing golf with some of my friends, I haven't had a lot of time to do that, but we were on this really nice course with these super awesome houses. These people, absolutely, I would say the majority of them had a lot of money, and I was just looking around and I'm just like, it is absolutely insane to me that none of these people have solar, because they can absolutely afford it easily, and their break even is less than 8 years. And so, you know, what's the disconnect? I think the disconnect is people don't realize this. They don't know the math behind it. So those are the reasons kind of why solar. First of all, it's going to be sustainable, and it's nice, and you can have backup. You can potentially make money from it if, you know, we change our rules here. If you live in a more progressive state where you can actually sell energy back to the grid, you can make money off of it. It's going to make our entire grid system more reliable, which not only is good for us and good for us sustainably, but it's probably good for us as a country and in terms of defense purposes for not having a vulnerable grid if more citizens were producing energy that is decentralized. And then lastly, like I had said before, it's going to save people money, and the break-evens is pretty significant. The longer one that I was mentioning to you is if you have somebody else install it. You install it yourself, it's even way faster. Okay, so let's get into, I made this. We're going to look at my computer real fast, and I'm going to bring up just a little thing that I made for myself to kind of really break down and say, you know, what's the math of this? If I put, you know, all this money into what I'm doing, you know, how long until I get my money back? Now, again, my system in terms of what I'm buying and how I'm building it is probably more expensive than what you would do because I'm adding a bunch of battery backup to it. You take that off and you're going to cut your expense, you know, by like a third to a half. And again, I may get into this at the end, but again, I don't want to make this too long. I'm building my own battery backup system, and so it'll probably save me like 2/3 of the cost. So yeah, actually to build as big of a battery backup system as I am, it would probably end up costing like $40,000 or $50,000 versus the 17 that I'm estimating for me building it myself. So again, my system's going to be a little bit more expensive than yours. What I would recommend, and we'll kind of get into the operations, is just grid tying and using the grid as a battery. Then you don't need to pay for batteries right now, and hopefully the cost of batteries will just keep going down over the next 5 years or so. I imagine it'll get cut down to about a third of the cost that it is right now for maybe double the capacity. So it's exciting times. It's exciting times. So first of all, let's just look at this. And so I've just got my numbers in here for what I have built so far. And again, I built my, we'll get into it a little bit more, but I built my infrastructure to where I could handle probably about double the capacity of the amount of solar panels that I put in so far because I've built it out to be expandable because I'm waiting for my Tesla Model 3 so that I won't have to pay for gasoline anymore, so I will need to put a few more panels up to be able to have the energy for that, and then eventually I'm going to have an electric van for my wife and I will need more energy for that. But just looking at this right here, you can kind of see for the system that I'm building, it comes out to about $46,000, $47,000. There's a 30% tax credit on the solar system, so the government's going to give me back $14,000 and some change on that. Now again, if you weren't to do the batteries, yours might be down at, you know, 29 or so, and then with a 9,000 credit or so, so you're talking about 20,000. So there's my total out-of-pocket expense. One of the things that I've done over the last couple of years, because I knew I was going to do this, is basically switch everything in my house over to electric, so we have no gas. I don't want gas. Gas is fine. It's less expensive right now. It's more efficient for heating and what so. However, I can't turn solar into gas. So I don't want to use gas. I want everything electric, you know, heater, water heater, obviously all the appliances, etc. Everything electric because I want everything to come from the sun eventually, and I'm pretty much to that point now. But so you want to get the amount that you need to be able to power everything, and there could be additional costs if you're switching over from gas, or you may just leave some of this stuff gas. But again, I think it'll be worth it over time to replace all of my utility bills. So my utility bills on average, maybe $5,000 per year. Those are gone for me. So if I was just looking at what I'm doing right now, my break-even is about 6.573 years. Again, that would be, so if you're not doing the battery backup system, you would be able to minus that part off, but I self-installed, so I saved that, and that might cost you anywhere between $8,000 to $25,000, depending on how expensive a company and how big your project is. And again, that's kind of one of my gripes with the solar industry is installers, in my opinion, are outrageously expensive. I mean, when you look at how good roofing companies do to come in and knock out a project, that's probably not much more in scope than what they're doing besides the wiring, which might take an extra half a day, which is with an electrician, which is obviously more expensive. But a lot of the manual labor could be knocked out by people with the same skill as roofers. You know, and they can do a project for $3,000 or $4,000. It's just absolutely insane that people are charging $15,000 or $25,000 to install a solar system. But you know, I've been talking to some electricians, and I'm like, you guys should go start your own company instead of working for these big companies that are ripping people off, and you know, do installs for like $5,000 to $10,000. And man, that's going to be awesome because not everyone's DIY like me, and they need that, and that's still probably awesome margins for people. So anyways, you would have to add that expense and you could minus the battery, so I imagine your break-even wouldn't be much more than what I'm estimating here, which again, that's 6.5 years. I said 8, so I think that's kind of on the high side. You can do that. And then, you know, I've kind of estimated my power usage and savings that I would get from not having to pay for gasoline anymore. So once I have my Tesla, my break-even's only 4.4, and then once I get the electric van, you know, maybe only about 3 years. So, I mean, that's rocking. I mean, a break-even of somewhere between 3 to 8 years, how long are you going to live in your house? And then even if you moved within that time frame, say 5 years from now, say you barely broke even, you're like, why did I even do this? I mean, come on. Is your house not going to be worth a lot more to someone when you tell them they don't have to pay for utilities for the next 20, 25 years? Absolutely it should be. And so you will get money back from the resale of that as well too. So you can kind of see how I built this. It's a little simple. But, you know, I built in and I could add things inside of here, but it didn't turn out much different. You know, paying for the solar panels, I'm going to go over what all these different things are, optimizers, racking, the things that I connected it to my roof on, and cabling, and then my inverters, and transformers, and meters, and what so. You can learn more of the details if you want to build your own system or get into it. But, you know, I did account for a lot of these things, and I even put a budget into there for buying my own tools and equipment, and books and educational materials, because it did take me a good 3 or 4 months of just reading and kind of studying on the side of running this business and everything else that I'm doing to just learn electrical engineering and how I wanted to design my system. Okay, so that might have been a little bit overkill, but I wanted to show you that because I think a lot of people have this, obviously, I can't understand why more people aren't doing solar. They have this block in their head that it's too expensive, it's not worth it. Now, of course, if you want this beautiful new thing that Tesla's doing with the roof, you're going to pay like 3 times as much too, but hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years, the price on that will come down, as it will with lots of other technological things. So buy the things that work awesome, that are second generation, that are really on sale. That's how you're going to get a good deal on this stuff. Don't buy the newest, best thing when it first comes out if your main purpose is ROI, right? Return on investment. So I made this really high level just so, you know, I could explain it to like my family and friends, and even for myself at first to just say, what am I doing here? You know, so I think that the best way to build these systems, unless you're totally in the middle of nowhere, is to grid tie. Grid tie means that you are still connected to AEP or Duke or whoever your utility is that feeds in energy to you. And if you overproduce in the summer, you can feed back and other people are going to use your energy. And the way that we do this in Ohio, and a lot of states are like this, is called net metering. And what net metering means is that you cannot make money off your energy. However, if you build your system to where it overproduces in the summer, when we're going to get the best sun and it's kind of directly going overhead and you've got long days, then your meter will run backwards, and AEP or whoever your utility is will give you credits that you build up, that when you take energy back at night or during the fall and winter, when you're underproducing, they give you the credits back. So one of the things that you'll have to do when you're building this system is the way that it is here locally. If you're watching this in your Ohio, in Central Ohio's AEP, you actually have to put in an application to AEP for them to approve your system, to make sure that it's done well, wired well, that they can disconnect it from the grid for safety purposes. And one of the main things is they do not want you to overproduce. I think that's kind of an old thing. Hopefully that'll go away eventually. I think from back in the day when they were a generator and the utility, and now that that's kind of gone away, maybe those rules will go away in the future, but I think that just came from them not wanting people to compete with them as a generator of power. But if you want to overproduce and you can't get paid for it, who cares? You know? So to me, that's an antiquated rule. But again, it exists, and so they just want to make sure that you're not going to produce more than you used the last 12 months. So, of course, it's a bureaucracy, so it'll take them, 3 or 4 weeks to approve your application. But then you can be set up for grid tie, and as soon as you're good, they'll come and inspect and put a different meter in that goes those both ways so that they can track it for you. So, I made this, so this just shows, this is the energy coming in from the solar panels, this is the energy coming in from the grid, and it can all go bi-directional, so it can go both ways. It comes into my inverters, and I built my system a little weird. Most of the time when people build solar system, they will put like a backup load. They're not going to power everything off of the solar, or if the power goes off, they'll only have the critical things that they want to keep on. So maybe, the lights and the refrigerator and the freezer, the things don't draw enormous power, but would be pretty nice to have on. And so that's what most people do. When I built mine, I was like, no, I want everything to be powered from solar, and then eventually, as I keep building out my batteries, from the energy that I store for myself. So then it works as a backup. It allows me to use my energy that I produce during the day, at night, etc. But to do that, you'll need multiple inverters, and that's why you see mine. So an inverter is a piece of machinery that takes AC or takes DC direct current. That's what your solar panels will produce, and can turn it into AC, and vice versa if you get a good one. I bought the inverter, which I think is one of the best for the US, called StoreEdge, from a company called SolarEdge, and it can turn my AC back into DC, so I can fill up my batteries with it as well too. So I can do, there's lots of different permutations of how I can do that, and you know, if we do turn into a more progressive state, or you live in one, then you can actually fill up your batteries and then pump it back out to the grid at opportune times to make money, right? So this is not, again, just for your own purposes, or, you know, being off the utility. It can actually be a very good investment to make money in the states that allow it, and hopefully most will eventually. And then you can see that, you know, the house uses the energy from one of these three sources, either from the batteries, or from the solar, or from the grid, and it can combine them together. Actually, it does that a lot right now since it's winter. My solar panels may not be producing enough for my entire house load, so maybe it's producing 3/4 during the middle of the day, and I'm drawing 1/4 from the grid, and it's pumping into there. So again, that's a high-level kind of overview of how my system is designed, and when you get into it, you're going to really need to see, you know, what real estate do you have for this, right? So I pretty much used my entire roof, figured out what solar panels I was going to use, and so how many of them could I fit into there, and then if you're going to do this yourself, then you need to design, you know, how are you going to string them together, and you can put them together in series or in parallel to change the voltage and the amperage. And you got to stay within the specifications of the equipment that you buy to make the amount of watts that you want. And so right now, my phase one of this was to just fill up my whole roof, and I did 6 series, and you can see, you know, approximately timesing the voltage times the amperage gives you the wattage. And then when I take, you know, putting these two together, because I do down in the basement in my combiners, I put them together, that's how much watts it produces, or it's capable of producing. Obviously, I don't live in the best place like Arizona in the desert or what, so we're not going to have as good a solar production all the time, but that's their capability of production, okay? And then that way I just get an idea of what can I produce, how is it going to be ingested by the inverters, what could they handle, what do I need for my house. And then there's great information out there in terms, like free, in terms of helping you design your stuff by the product manufacturers. And so this is one that I use to just kind of put all of my information into there, the panels that I've got, where I live, latitude, longitude wise, what slopes my roof were and what directions they're facing, and it could actually tell me, actually let me go to the one down here, and it could actually tell me, and it's been pretty close so far. Obviously, I haven't had a whole year yet. I flipped my system on at the middle of January, but you can kind of see the low production over here in the winter and fall, and then really peaking up pretty good into the summer. And so it's estimating that based on where I live and the slopes of my roof, that I should be able to get somewhere around 13,000 to 14,000 kilowatt hours of energy. I'm not going to go into understanding electricity, what everything means. If you know, great, Google it. If you don't, but again, that's why I spent like 3 months just learning electrical engineering to say, so kilowatt hours is basically how much you use over time. Watts are the energy it takes as it's running right away. Amps are the current, and volts are the potential. You can think of it as how fast the water is running through the hose, and the amperage is how big the hose is. So again, just for some real quick, but you'll need to learn it if you're going to design your own system. This is that StoreEdge system. I'm really happy with all the SolarEdge stuff that I've gotten. They're a good company. It works really well in terms of everything hooking together. So you need some kind of inverter. I use an inverter and power optimizer. Some people will use systems that have microinverters, which means that they have these little things on the back of their solar panel that at the solar panel they turn them into AC. and that's cool. But if you're going to use any kind of battery backup system, you can't have that. Well, I guess you could if you had AC batteries, and there are some on the market, but there's just not as much of them. The technology is not there because there's not a ton of people using them. So you're probably going to want to use direct current batteries, which means that you're not going to use microinverters. But basically, you have to turn the DC into AC eventually for us to be able to use it. So you either need one big one when the panels come into it, or you need little ones on the back. If you want to do like me, or eventually you do want to use batteries, then you'll probably want power optimizers. And power optimizers they do multiple things, but the two most important are they keep things safe. So whenever the main inverter isn't operational, it tells the inverters to stay kind of off, to not push a bunch of the DC current down. So then all the cables are really safe when you're working on things, etc. And when it wants to be operational, it tells them to let the juice flow. And you got to be really careful. If you're a DIY person, electricity obviously is dangerous, right? And DC is more dangerous than AC. It doesn't seem like it because we're used to direct current coming from batteries and whatso, and that is such low voltage and amperage, for the ones that we use, that it's probably not going to hurt you. But when you start talking about huge voltages, like 200 to a couple thousand volts, even at low amperage, it can fry you. And the thing about DC that's bad about it is, and that's good about AC, even though it doesn't sound good, is if you get shocked, with your 120 or your 240 AC, it will boom hit you and throw you back, and that can still kill you, obviously. But DC won't do that. It'll just go right through you and won't kick you. So you got to be really careful, be safe, learn how your systems work, and be safe with this stuff, because it is high voltage that's coming through these things. But you can see all the materials that they give you in terms of like how to hook up the system, what type, and you can use the new Tesla batteries. LG Chem's got an awesome new battery out as well that was approved in the United States like 3 months ago, that I think is, for the amount of kilowatt hours and price, is a better deal than even the Tesla Powerwalls. But who knows, as they keep manufacturing these things, hopefully, again, like I said, the power keeps going, or the price keeps going down. But it gives you all kinds of different design ideas of how you could hook things together. I've got mine up. I could probably actually show you an example, but again, it's cloudy and rainy here, so I'm not producing very much right now in terms of how the monitoring is working and tracking it. And then let's keep going here. Power optimizers, I already explained that. That's kind of what they look like. These are the panels that I used. Again, what I would say is look, what you want is what you can get the most watts out of, that are as small as possible, because obviously you can fit more of them on your roof that are going to work with the other equipment. And so you got to kind of like shift and shape to see how can I get the best deal to put things together. A lot of these solar companies will put packages together and look at them. Sometimes they're good deals, but it may not be what you want, or it may be more expensive than if you kind of piece it together. One of the companies that I use to buy most of the stuff for the solar stuff is called Solaris. And I was a little nervous at first because I've never heard of them before, and I think they're decently small. I was like, man, I'm going to buy tens of thousands of dollars of stuff from these people. But they were awesome, so I'm going to plug them. I've consistently gone back and found really good stuff from there, and they ship me my stuff in like less than a week. I mean, like pallet shipped it. They're out of, I think, somewhere on the West Coast. They shipped it to me from Pennsylvania, and it got here in less than a week, which I didn't need it that fast, but it was awesome. My rec panels for when I was shopping, again, I'm not a first generation type, so I think they're mine were like kind of second generation, maybe a year or two old. But one thing that I liked about them was their efficiency, how small they were for how many watts they would give me, and that they worked with everything that I wanted, and I got them. For some reason, they were just on sale for like half off. And another design thing that I like about them is these twin peak. They're like cut off in the middle. And one of the things, until you get into it, that most people don't realize is if you have partial shade on part of your solar panel, it can keep it from producing anything, right? And so since it's broken in two, it's almost like two different solar panels. So if something was to go over one for some reason, whatever, the other half of it could still work. So again, it broke my system down even further to like I have more panels. to where less things could go wrong, and I'm probably going to get higher production. You know, this was the agreement that AEP has for that net metering. Again, you can Google all of this stuff from AEP. I worked with a guy over at AEP, Charlie, and he helped me get all this stuff done, and they were very helpful with it. Everything went pretty smooth, so it was a pretty good experience. So I know that's all fine and boring, right? But let me show you a couple things here. I'm going to show you some pictures. Actually, these are my guys from work, Tony and Jonathan and Richard, and even when our interns Deep helped me when I got to this part of the main manpower that I needed to just handing the panels up. So you can see us there as we were installing them there. And then inside, those are my 3 inverters. I'm getting ready to expand to 4. Just because I'm going to need the extra power once my car starts pulling off of there. I built an extra electrical closet just for that, to obviously keep my kids and stuff out of a dangerous room. Those are my DC direct current combiners. So when those different series come down from the panels, then this puts them together to make it into one wire to go into the inverters. And then it also makes it more expandable for me. So when I put up other series, so people probably think I'm kind of crazy, but my phase 2 and 3 of my project is putting solar panels over the east and west outside parts of my house, and then I'm probably going to chop the tree down in my backyard and put a trellis up with panels over the backyard too. But once I run them in there, I can just plug them into there, and the inverters that I have up to the wattage that they can take will be able to expand. I just use regular like AC panels to be my splitters and combiners for my grid coming in. So this first one right here, this is what the grid comes into here, and then I split it up with these breakers right here, and each one, actually let me go, there's another one right here. Each one of these goes to my inverters, and then my inverters combine it with the DC and then make it back into AC, and it comes back to here, right? And then this one's putting it back together to go to my main box right there. It's going over, oh no, this is going over. These are, I'm not even talking about that. That's something else that I made in there. But this one's going over to my main box so that it's just like the regular grid line incoming. These things most people won't need, but if you do have batteries, what these things are called auto transformers, and they kind of harmonize the voltage and amperage and frequency of the electricity, the AC, so that it can go back out to the grid and make sure that everything's harmonized, because AC does need to be at certain standards so that it works well with the grid. So let's see, that's the inside of my inverters, or at least the bottom part of it. There's the top part of it too, so you can kind of see a little bit of the wiring of where things are coming in and out, and that's where the DC is coming in, and then all the breakers internally inside of there, so I can break the DC, the AC. You can switch it into different types of modes. I'm more than happy to talk to people about these things because it's actually almost like turned into my hobby. That's the inside of one of the combiners right there, so you can see they've got their own high voltage breakers as well too. So again, safety first. There's Tony. Tony is helping me. Him and his son actually helped me install the racking system. So the racking system is what holds the solar panels, and you can see, bam, we tapped them in, you know, to the rafters right there so they would hold steady. And again, this company that I bought these from actually helped me figure out, you know, exactly what did I need to make sure that engineering, structurally wise, it was going to be strong enough to hold the weight and the wind shear, etc., for the type slope that we have and the amount of panels I was going to put there. And then actually you can see it's kind of tough on this angle, but those little things right there are the power optimizers hooked to there. And then basically when we put the solar panels down, it's got little wires on it. They're just connected to it. It's really simple. It's really simple. So there you can see that's when we got the solar panels actually into there, right there. That's when we're handing them up. That's totally installed right there. So, you know, you saw the beginnings of the plan. It's beautiful to kind of see it come together and be in real life. There's a kind of a top view from what it looks like up top when we were putting them in. There's everybody happy and celebrating. We got them all bolted down. That's what it looks like up top when we were installing them. So I'd say, you know, the whole thing was actually not that hard, but that was probably one of the more unnerving parts of being up that high on the roof with something that's almost like a sail. So you want to do it on a less windy day. So the last thing I wanted to bring up here, let's actually look at if you are a client of ours or a friend of a client, if you're not a client, it's mainly for our clients, but if you're just like super interested and you watch this, you know, give me a ring, reach out personally. But we're having a open house at my house for a lot of my clients have expressed interest that they just want to see, you know, how I built everything and installed it. We're having an open house on April 14th. If you'd like to come, you can register on Eventbrite. So just like I did, you saw me right there. Just type in Rebel Event, and you know, we're like the first thing that pops up there. And I put a little bit of information about it, and you can register. It's free; it doesn't cost anything. But again, it's my hobby. I'm really into it. Even though I've got enough installed here to produce everything that we need, I'm probably going to expand it to over double the capacity, and we'll have storage enough to be able to go for like a month off grid. And I'm even designing my own battery backup system. So at the open house, I think I'm turning into a little bit of tech thing. I've been setting up to mine some Bitcoin with my free energy from the solar. We're going to have our VR set up, a couple Oculus things. And I might demo my little plasma cutter too, which I'm using off the solar as well too. So again, thanks for joining us. Obviously, you can see I like to build things. It's Rebel Financial is kind of the same way. We keep making it better. It's like every month it's a little bit different than how it was before, because we like to keep engineering to make things better for our clients. And we want to make the world a better place in the future, and we want to help people. So I hope this helped you. This ran way longer than I wanted it to, but it's just really cool. So I hope I inspired some of you guys to put in your own solar system, to save some money, make some money, make the world better, and what's so. So have a great weekend. Thanks for joining in, and we'll talk to you next week when we have Dominic Sissy in from Interactive Protective Systems, and we're going to go into, you know, a lot of the traditional stuff, but also home automation and the Internet of Things, which I also find fascinating as well too. So have a super weekend. Talk to you soon.